Hi, this is Tom Soane and welcome to the Anonymous Landlord. It's currently September 2020 and I want to talk to you today about exactly what the hell is going on in the property market right now. It's been a roller coaster of a year in the property world, as I'm sure you all know. So I want to talk to you about what is actually going on and what you need to know. But also, I'm going to put my neck on the block a bit here. I want to give you my predictions for the rest of 2020 and what do I think is going to happen in 2021. So I'm going to go through that with you because first of all, I think there are some opportunities. Second of all, I think there are some things that you all need to know. If you're a buyer or a seller, an investor, a landlord, there are some things that you really do need to know. But first, let's have a little talk through what's going on in the sales market, property sales. So there are loads of different people and publications and channels telling you that the property market for sales is going mental. It absolutely is. Property prices aren't necessarily going up. Maybe in some areas they've gone up a little bit, but properties are selling super fast. Let me give you some stats. 15% of properties are selling within 1 week. Now that's the highest it's ever been in the last 10 years. So that's crazy. Properties are selling so fast, it's unbelievable. 30% of properties are selling within 2 weeks. Again, just absolutely mind-blowing. I haven't seen this for ages. It's been a really good time for property sales. But there is a warning coming up, and I'll give that to you a bit later because I am going to talk about the rest of the market. It's not just about getting a sale agreed, is it? It's also about getting the sale agreed completed, and there are some other components involved in that. It seems to be that 2 and 3 bedroom semi-detached properties are the fastest selling properties in the country right now. Now that could be a number of reasons. I personally think that we are in a mini boom. Of course we are, that's evident. But I think that's a result of a bottleneck is the only way I can describe it. A bottleneck of buyers and sellers. So think of it like this. We've been through this whole uncertainty of Brexit, and at the beginning of 2020, property started really selling again and the sales market was starting to go well. Then we hit lockdown. So there was more uncertainty about what's going to happen. And in actual fact, people couldn't actually really buy or sell property. So the sales market kind of stopped for that period of lockdown. So there was all the uncertainty leading up to lockdown. Then we had a small recovery. And then we went into lockdown and it kind of stopped again. So I feel like that created a bottleneck of everybody that wanted to sell and everybody that wanted to buy. They got into the bottleneck. Then we went into lockdown and people realised, do you know what? I want a better property. I've been stuck in my house for all this time. I want a bigger garden. I want a better location. I want to be closer to family. I want a bigger house. Whatever it is, I think that more people went into that bottleneck of deciding that they wanted to move, and that made people, when we came out of lockdown, flood the sales market. And I think people kind of had enough of all of this. Over the last couple of years, we've had such uncertainty. So people in general were feeling a bit cautious about selling, a bit cautious about buying and moving. So maybe they'd had enough of all of that uncertainty and they decided to take action. But the problem is, well, not the problem, but the good thing is they all decided to take action at once. Demand went through the roof. And when you've got high demand, you've got high activity, sales go up and everything just goes crazy. But add to that, we've also had the stamp duty exemption. And if you don't know what that is, it means that anything up to £500,000, any property up to £500,000 is exempt from stamp duty until March 2021. So you've encouraged more people to come to the market because they're going to make a bit of a saving. They're then able to pay a little bit more for properties as well because they're saving money on the stamp duty. And any properties that were originally priced maybe a little tiny bit too high, all of a sudden come into a price range for people to buy. So look, it doesn't negate the rule. If you price a property correctly, and this goes for you, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, as well as the estate agents, because there are some dodgy estate agents that just overprice everything. Let's not get into that. If you price a property correctly, it will sell. Even more so now, it will sell faster. So that's been really good for the sales market. And actually, I feel like a lot of agents and a lot of sellers and a lot of buyers have had a little bit of relief, a sense of relief that they are able to sell, they are able to buy, they are able to move. So I think this has been a positive for the industry and for the people involved. But there are a couple of things to watch out for, and they are coming up. Let's now talk about the mortgage market. And this is really important to understand how mortgages are working as well, because most people buy their property with a mortgage. So if the mortgage market is affected in any way, or there are any parts of the mortgage market which we need to know about, then that will affect the sales market. And remember, a sale agreed isn't the job done. A sale agreed is step one. You've got to get that sale agreed through to completion. So the mortgage is a massive part of that. Now, we've seen mortgage rates at the beginning of this year were quite low and really good, especially for buy-to-let investors. We were going to the market with mortgage purchases and loving life because the rates were low, the criteria was good, and we were able to get mortgages on properties, and it was brilliant. So we were able to buy. Right now, September 2020, the rates have gone up a little bit, especially for buy-to-let properties and bridging loans. It's all kind of gone up a little bit. Bit more expensive to borrow that money for property investing. There's a number of reasons for that, but we're all seeing it and we're all feeling the pinch. But these mortgage lenders, look, we can't really blame them too much, because I want to tell you why they're increasing their rates and why they're increasing costs for the buyers. First of all, they're protecting their own risk, right? If you imagine you sell or you do 20,000 mortgages and you do them at a really low rate because times are good, then you're more likely to get your return as a mortgage lender, to get your profit, to get your return, to get your value from each mortgage. However, if there is higher uncertainty in the market, then you need to increase your cost or increase your charges, because the chances are more people will default on their mortgages, right? Now, that's not everybody, but there's just a slightly increased number of people that are more likely to default on their mortgages, not pay their mortgages because of the uncertainty in the market. So a mortgage lender increases their rates to effectively pay for the people that won't pay their mortgage in the future because they can't. So that's why the rates go up. Also, there are some other factors, cost of borrowing, economy, all of those things. But 9 times out of 10, it's because of risk. The mortgage rate goes up because the risk goes up. So they're basically charging everybody to pay for the people that will cause them a problem. Now, they're also maximising the opportunity. And this is the bit where a lot of people might have an opinion about mortgage lenders, where we are in a situation where there is an opportunity for mortgage lenders and bridging finance lenders to take advantage and to maximise on this opportunity. So they'll treat you with a take it or leave it mentality. If they don't lend to you, they're not taking on any risk. If they do lend to you, they're charging you so much that they're covering any risk that they might take anyway. So they can have a take it or leave it mentality. But they're also securing their own business. They need to achieve a certain value per customer. And if you've got 10,000 customers and more of them aren't paying the mortgage payments and more of them are defaulting on their mortgages, then there's a lower value per customer across the whole board. So they're increasing charges to make sure they maintain their own business. Now, I'm not sticking up for mortgage lenders here. I'm an investor myself. I take mortgages to buy properties, so I'm suffering too. But I'm trying to see this from a bigger picture, and I want you to as well, because they are a business. And a business has to make money in order to be a business. If they don't make profit, they are not a business. So whilst we're all feeling the pinch, and we all hate big businesses for making loads of money out of us, we hate it. We see them as evil. But Now just put a different hat on and change your mindset a little bit. They are a business, so they have to make money. If they don't make money, they're not there, everyone's out of a job and they are gone. But you are also a business too, Mr. and Mrs. Property Investor, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, Buyer, whatever you are. You are a business too. So yes, your mortgage lender might increase their costs to you, but all you do is calculate it into your true yield and then you make your offer accordingly. So don't worry about increased charges because that's out of your control. Worry about what you're going to offer to make sure you still make your money. Now try to remember as well, we are in a period of uncertainty. So your offer might change, yes. Your costs might change, yes. And you still want to make profit. But just during this time, make some profit. Don't make no profit. Don't be overcautious and don't make anything. Some profit's better than no profit, right? Especially in a time like this. Anyway. Shock horror, I have veered off topic. Now, lenders are also being tight. So I'll give you an example. I've just had a mortgage approved. I've just had a mortgage offer. And the criteria that I had to achieve for the mortgage lender was a list of about 20 things. I've never had that before. It was crazy. So they are doing a huge amount of due diligence on every application. They're being overly cautious because of the uncertainty in the market. So yeah, they're charging us a bit more, but they're also being really careful with it as well. There's loads more requirements and tighter criteria for each mortgage lender and bridging finance lender. And I'd love to hear from you actually. I've had an experience on it already and I'm probably going to have more. But what about you? Have you applied for a mortgage and you've had to provide so much information that you've never had to provide before? You just go with it, don't you? It has to be done. If you want to buy this property, you want to invest in a property and you want to make money, then you've got to go with it, right? But there is another little problem here. And this is coming back to what I said earlier. The sales market is rocketing right now. Properties are selling super fast right now. And there's loads of factors contributing towards that. However, so just a quick warning. Surveyors are being tight on property values. I'm going to give you an example. I just bought a place, I refurbished it, and I went to refinance it. The mortgage surveyor came out and downvalued it by 25 grand. I said to the surveyor, hold on a second, where can you buy a brand new refurbished 3-bedroomed house for that price? You cannot. And I showed him a ton of comparisons and eventually we got it right. But immediately downvalued it. It was crazy. So anyway, I don't know why I'm telling you that, but it's just an example. And I've seen that a lot in the industry. So what's going on in the lettings world? Well, first of all, I've told you about the eviction ban has been extended again, meaning you can't get into the court or you can't apply to the court really until after the 20th of September. You can apply now, but they won't consider it or they won't look at it until after the 20th. So that's been a problem for a number of landlords. However, there has been a few changes. So if your tenant is 6 months or more in arrears, you can now give them 4 weeks notice and then the courts will see you. It's another 4 weeks notice if your tenant has committed antisocial behaviour. It's 2 weeks notice if they've committed domestic violence. I do think notice periods are going to be extended again because what the government are obviously trying to do is prevent people from being evicted from their homes and not being able to get another property because tenant referencing or mortgage lenders or anything like that are judging them based on the lockdown period. That's what I think anyway. But how does it affect everybody? Well, landlords, you're going to be more cautious now. Just, of course you are, when checking out potential tenants. And quite rightly, you need to take care of yourself. You're a business too. Also, insurers are not paying out because there are some insurance policies that don't cover disease. Would you believe it? Terrible luck for anybody who has that policy. So Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, check your insurance policy to make sure you're covered for disease or pandemic or whatever we're calling it. But also insurance is getting more expensive. And I get it, they're businesses too. They have to cover their own risk. If they've got higher risk, they have to charge more to cover that risk. That's the way of the world. Now, there are a few good things for us property investors, for landlords. Planning laws are being changed and revised. Actually, I think there's going to be a ton of changes to planning over the next year to year and a half. First of all, there's going to be a much more lenient allowance, if you like, for commercial property being turned into residential property. Now, that will be a good thing, not just for the country, because we do have a shortage of housing right now, but also for property investors. Commercial to residential is a really good investment because it's a building, it's already there, you can turn it into flats, or you can turn it into a HMO, or you can turn it into something else, whatever you decide to do with it, and the laws are being eased, let's just say. Planning applications are no longer needed to demolish and rebuild existing but unused buildings, which is good news because there's going to be quite a lot of those, I think. Certainly going back to what I said about commercial, I think there are going to be a number of unused commercial buildings because of all of this lockdown. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of businesses that have had to close. Now, I'm not one to encourage you to profit from other people's misery, but I don't believe it is that. Look, somebody is going to buy that property, somebody is going to profit from it. It might as well be you. Yes, I hear so much hate for people, for property investors, for so-called profiting from other people's misery. You're not profiting from other people's misery because you didn't close down their business. You didn't cause the global pandemic. You didn't decide on Brexit. That's not you. What you're doing is doing something with the opportunity that is presented after that event. That's not your fault. You haven't caused that building to be unused or empty. So look, just go for it. There are opportunities here and you're not hurting anybody by taking them. Another thing I do think is a good thing, and I'm probably going to say something out of turn here, but I think all of this legislation, all of these changes that are coming in are going to reduce the number of what I call idiot landlords. Landlords that ruin it for the rest of us. Now, you're probably watching this, right? And you're probably listening to all the stuff I do, all the podcasts, all the videos, because you want to learn and improve and develop yourself as a property investor, as a landlord, maybe even as a business owner. Now, there are some idiot landlords who do nothing other than invest in property in order to squeeze tenants for every single penny they've got, and subsequently not even look after them, not make their lives comfortable. And I hate those landlords, the people that really do ruin it for the rest of us. Don't get me started on that. I might do another podcast, maybe a rant on that, on idiot landlords. I'd love to get your views on idiot landlords because they're the ones that are causing all these problems for the rest of us. Anyway, I promised you my predictions. Now, I did say a couple of months back, I said, look, when we start coming out of lockdown, it's going to spike. I did say that, and it has happened, and is still happening. I'd love that to continue. I don't think it can, and I'm sorry to be a doom and gloom guy. If anybody knows me, you know I am a glass half full guy. I am always looking for the opportunities, and I'm always ready to take them. But I do think this is a spike, and I think it's going to continue until we get into the normal quiet month of December. And I think January, February are going to be average, and I think that's when the spike is going to start coming down. So January, February, March-ish is going to be okay. From now until November time is going to continue to spike, I'm pretty sure. I do think, though, around the second half of 2021, I think the sales market is going to go the other way. I don't think property prices are going to fall, though. This is the weird thing in my head. No, don't get me wrong. In some areas, property prices will drop slightly. Like London, I think that's going to come back down a little bit. But I do think that the second half of 2021 is going to slightly tail off, go a little bit more steady and stagnant, but certainly not increase. Why do I think that? Number one, all of these sales that are going through now, great. I do think they're going to fall through. Well, not all of them, but some of them. A lot of them. The stamp duty exemption runs out in March. That's going to mean that a lot of people are going to have to spend more money on buying a property. I think that's going to make things a bit different. And I think as the government tries to get back to normal, or the economy or the country tries to get back to normal, we're going to start seeing the real effects of the whole COVID-19 lockdown pandemic. Because I think that's when it's all going to settle down. We're starting to get back to work, but we're going to be left with all the unemployment, left with all the closed businesses, left with the damage to the economy. And all of those things, I think, are going to contribute towards a slightly smaller and lower performing sales market. I hope not. I'd love to be wrong about that, but I can't see it. I can't see mortgage lenders all of a sudden just going, right, well, that's great then, we're out of lockdown. Let's just lend to everybody again. Yay! I can't see it happening. I actually think they're going to continue being tight, which kind of limits the number of first-time buyers that can come along because it has to be so tight. They're currently not offering small deposits on their mortgage products. I think that's going to continue for a little while. So overall, I think there are a few things that are going to contribute towards a slightly slower sales market next year. Now, I don't think prices are going to go badoosh. I don't think the sales market's going to go dead. Actually, I think it's going to go to a very steady, not high-performing sales market with a slight decrease in prices for certain areas. I think Portsmouth, my area, always tends to do quite well when the property market slumps a bit, tends to continue moving a little bit, and I don't know why that is. It's because it's probably, because we're in the southeast and it's good prices per property. We're still within commutable range of London. We're on the seafront. It's working class and a naval town. I don't know. Anyway, all of those things. But I do think that as we start getting out of 2021, that's when we'll start getting back to normal. So I predict that in 2022, we're going to see similar activity levels to what we saw at the beginning of 2020. And then it will just increase from there. So look, if you've got a property or you're buying a property, you're probably going to keep it for 10 years or more, 20 maybe. Over that time, I'm pretty sure that it's all going to be okay. But yeah, as we get into 2022, I think that's when we're going to start getting back to normal as a property market. I think that's when the sales market is going to start rising again. So if you're a property investor and you're going to keep you're not looking to sell a property if you're a landlord. So over the next 10, 20, 30 years, your property price is going to carry on going up. You're still going to make money. And as long as you're still making rent profit, you're going to be safe. For landlords, I do think there is more legislation on its way. One of the big ones is something called ROPA, which is the regulation of property agents. Now, here's the shocker. If you're a landlord, you will need to be qualified. If you are a landlord's assistant, you will need to be qualified. Letting agent, estate agent, every single person who has anything to do with managing a property will have to be qualified. That is inevitable. I also think landlord licensing is coming in. It's happening in a load of councils around the country already. So it's coming across the whole of the country very soon, I'm pretty sure. So just to recap, sales market up here. And actually, I forgot to mention, the rental market is following suit with the sales market. Sales are high, lettings are high. Good news if you've got a property to sell or let right now. If you are buying a property to invest in, get it done quickly, before the end of March. If you're going to invest in a property and you want to sell it, get it done before the end of March. Trust me. If it's going after that, you might want to think about keeping it. You might want to think about renting it out. So yeah, sales high, lettings high. Mortgages, lenders are being tight. So if you're going to apply for a mortgage, get ready to do some administration, some paperwork, because they are going to ask you for a ton of stuff. The rates are slightly higher. That's okay. Just calculate it into your true yield. And bear in mind, don't calculate fake yield. Please don't calculate fake yield. I even had a conversation yesterday with a veteran couple who have invested in property before. They've been in property for years, who have calculated their yield all wrong. I went through and recalculated all of their yield, and there was a couple of examples, I thought, oh no. A couple of examples when they're actually making more than they thought. Anyway, Google search Tom Soane True Yield or have a look at it on my podcast. Yes, so mortgages. I've veered off again, haven't I? Anyway, lettings, I've told you about that. The evictions ban, exceptions to the notice period extensions. Landlords are going to be more cautious of potential tenants. Yes, check your insurance policy, definitely. Insurance is getting more expensive, but insurance is insurance. You never need insurance until you need insurance. So good things are planning is going to become much easier because we need more houses. And I think we're going to reduce the number of idiot landlords. I'd love to hear your views on idiot landlords. What do you think about idiot landlords? Anyway, recap on my predictions. The rest of 2020 up until about December is going to be a spike. We're going to stay here. We're going to stay high. I think it's going to start coming down slightly at the beginning of 2021. But the second half of 2021, I think that's going to be where it starts to come down a bit more. And I don't think it's going to slump and stop. I do think it's going to slow down. In the meantime, be careful. I do think a lot of sales are going to fall through because of surveyor valuations, mortgage lender valuations. But 2022, I think that's when we're going to start getting back to normal. I think that's when we're going to start seeing the sorts of activity levels that we were seeing at the beginning of this year. So, I hope that helps. Hey, I'm going to look back on this next year and see if I was right. I hope I'm wrong about the slowing down of the sales market. Because obviously I'm in property. So I want property to keep moving because that benefits me and it benefits you. But in a weird way, I also hope I'm right because that's great for my ego, isn't it? If you make a prediction and it comes true, that's what everybody loves that. Whether you want the prediction to come true or not is a different thing. Anyway, so look, I hope that helps. Don't forget to tune in to the webinar that I'm doing. Depending on when you're watching this, I'm doing a webinar in a couple of weeks for landlords in lockdown, where we can look at the legal updates, all of the changes to legislation that's happened, so that you can keep up to date with that. I'm also going to talk you through ways that you can thrive out of this lockdown, because there are some opportunities here that you might not notice and you can take advantage of. Also, I'll talk you through some ways that you can recover any rent arrears, but also if your tenant can't pay their rent, how can you help them pay their rent? Because there are some ways. I think I put it into 11 steps in the end, 11 steps to help your tenant be able to pay their rent. So after that, I also want to give you a little bit of a lesson, so to speak, of becoming an anonymous landlord yourself, even in these weird times, how you can be an anonymous landlord. And remember, it's more than just getting a letting agent. That's not what it's about. It's about automation, systemization, delegation, management, optimization, making the highest yield, the highest profit, reducing your expenditure, increasing your income, but also having all of your time free, having all of your financial requirements free. And that is what the anonymous landlord is. It's a quality of life, it's a way of life, it's a mentality, it's a mindset. Because what's the point in making loads of money out of property if you've got no time or energy to use it or enjoy it? So anyway, remember, if you're watching this, that means, if you're listening to this, that means that you want to improve yourself and develop yourself. And I really appreciate you for doing that. It is the way for you to be the best version of yourself. And remember, if you want to be the best version of yourself at one thing, then you've got to be the best version of yourself at everything. Change your life. Be the best you can be as a dad, as a husband, as a businessman, as a property owner, as a everything. That's the way you do it. My name's Tom Soane, and join me in saying this is the Anonymous Landlord.